Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Friday, January 13th, 2023. I'm your host, George Kerth, joined by Cody Roadcap and Tyler Snyder. Guys, going into the playoffs, I think we can reset our fantasy football minds, talk a little bit more football. How are you feeling?
I'm just trying to avoid black cats on Friday the 13th. I got to get through this day first.
Yeah, I'm just excited to watch the Titans go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it this year. It's been a long, tough road. They've dealt with a lot, but you know what? I'm excited to see them win the Super Bowl. And outside of my Madden league, I am interested to see how this weekend goes.
That was a great shot there. I like that. All right, so just a quick scheduling talk before we move into this show. We are going to be going back to one show a week starting next week. It will be released on Fridays through the week of the Super Bowl. So do not get too scared if you do not see us at the beginning of next week. We'll be back on Friday next week. On today's show, we're going to be hitting some NFL news and notes. We're going to give our breakdown of every wildcard game in our wildcard preview, and we're going to be drafting our playoff challenge lineup. Make sure if you have not yet to draft your playoff challenge lineup before the games start on Saturday. The link is in the description of this video or podcast, as well as our Discord chat where you can ask us questions 24/7 and find us on social media. We are everywhere at the Couch GMs. All right, guys, let's jump into
George,
NFL
real quick,
news.
I'm going to cut you off before we do this. Playoff challenge, please join, and please use your real name or your Twitter, Instagram handle so we can connect with you afterwards. Because if you beat us, we are going to invite you on the show and share with your friends, because the more participants we get, the more prizes may be added. I just want to throw that in there. But as George is about to do, let's jump into NFL news.
Thank you, Cody, for that. And starting with NFL news, we have a neutral site named for the potential Bills versus Chiefs AFC Championship game. If they both get there, it will be played in Atlanta. So normally the place that seems to be the go-to is Detroit. They're apparently doing something with their turf, and Atlanta will be the neutral site. Still a dome. I know that we kind of feel, indifferent about even having a neutral site game, but what are you guys' thoughts on the location?
It's dumb. It's dumb that we're having a neutral site game, and it's also dumb that we're taking two outside teams and putting them indoors. Like, this game should have been played at MetLife, Chicago, Green Bay. Like, they're cold weather teams, they're outdoor teams. They should be playing in the elements. This is dumb.
Yep.
Tyler agrees, and that doesn't happen often. So we take that as a victory here at the Couch GMs.
Yes, and then we can move on to our next piece of news. Cody added this one in. I don't know how to say his name. Do you know how to say his name?
Yeah, so this is great Couch GM news. Henry, I believe it's Leverett. He earned his 5th Madden Championship Series belt on Wednesday night in the Madden 23 Ultimate Wildcard Tournament. This victory reset the record for Henry with the most belts in competitive Madden history. So Tyler was talking about his Madden franchise. The Titans are going to win the Super Bowl, so maybe he's working his way into trying to compete in the Madden tournaments. But, as Couch GMs, we love playing Madden too, so I had to give a shout-out to the guy that won this year's tournament.
When it comes to football, the GOAT will always be named Henry. Good to know.
GOAT, the king, however you want to put it, I guess. And then one more piece of news. We got some quarterback news. We thought there was a pretty good possibility that Derek Carr would be moved. He has not yet officially been moved, but he did have a very emotional Twitter post saying goodbye to Raiders fans. Quick snippet from it. He said, "I once said that if I'm not a Raider, I would rather be at home, and I meant that, but I never envisioned it ending this way. That fire burning inside of me to win a championship still rages." So there's plenty more to it. It was a whole, I believe, 2 pictures worth of text. So you can go check that out yourself. But not often you see a player say goodbye before they're actually moved. The last one I can remember actually was Jimmy Garoppolo, who is still a 49er. What are your guys' thoughts on Derek Carr and maybe some potential landing spots early here?
Yeah, I feel like last year around this time we were talking man, there's really not that many teams that need a quarterback. This is going to be a weird offseason. And now we're looking at the scope of the NFL. I could see a bunch of teams that could be looking for a quarterback, whether it's for this year or for the future. So I think Carr will have his options. I think he will get a potential landing spot. But in the snippet, he basically just says that the only thing he wants to do is win a championship. So I could see him going to a contender that thinks they're a quarterback away, maybe a Colts team, but they have the they
They
have the
would.
high draft pick. I don't see it happening, but a team like that feels like they're a quarterback away. I feel like they might take the chance on Derek Carr if they think he can be that guy. But the jury's still out on him. I think that he is one of the most interesting quarterbacks in the sense of some days I'm like, yeah, Derek Carr's a good quarterback, and other days I'm like, yeah, Derek Carr should be a backup. So I don't know. It's kind of a interesting situation.
Yeah, I think with Derek Carr, the thing to remember is he hasn't been released yet. They're trying to facilitate a trade, so we'll see how much input he actually gets to say, or is it just the team with the best offer? I know he was kind of linked to the Jets a little bit because they need a quarterback. I think Seattle could be interesting if they don't bring back Geno Smith. If Brady leaves, Tampa Bay becomes interesting with the pieces they have there. So there's definitely a lot of teams to talk about. And then also guys that have ready to move on. I believe DeAndre Hopkins put out a cryptic tweet that he's going to be moving on from Arizona. And Brandon Cook said he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. So already a week after the regular season ended, a lot of guys on the move. So buckle up for a wild offseason. We're going to be right here with you through the whole thing.
Speaking of wild offseason, I just want you to know, I know this isn't a Titans page. I shouldn't just be talking about Titans, but the Titans fan base went absolutely bananas because of DeAndre Hopkins being rumored to be traded. Titans desperately need a receiver. And someone found a picture that DeAndre Hopkins tweeted out saying, how many touchdowns do you think this trio would score? And it was a picture of Derrick Henry, D Hop, and Lamar Jackson all in the same picture, with Lamar rumored to be going to free agency this offseason. Titans also could use a quarterback. Titans fans think this is a legit possibility, and they are losing their minds over this picture. So just a little fun fan base.
Lamar's getting franchise tagged, so just
Yeah.
reply that to every comment.
They don't
That's
listen.
what I would say. But also, Jets fans are also going crazy over the possibility of Lamar Jackson. Like, he posted something about his injury we can talk about when we get to their game. And every other comment on that tweet was him stitched into a Jets jersey. So it's pretty crazy.
That's D-Hop and Packers fans. So I get it. Teams that are not in the playoffs, they're getting excited about what could happen. They're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But why don't we jump in and talk about those teams playing this weekend?
We start off Wildcard weekend on Saturday, 4:30 Eastern game between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. So I think, like, before we start this, every single game in Wildcard weekend is a rematch from this year. Some of them are divisional, so it's a third time, but every single team here has played each other. That familiarity is going to be interesting. There's normally at least one that has not been a matchup already. Seahawks 49ers. I don't exactly know how we want to break this down. We're still going to talk some fantasy, some DFS plays, but I think we're actually going to be giving some predictions and talking actual football on this one. So let's take it away with the 49ers. Anybody that sticks out that you would want to throw into a playoff challenge lineup, DFS plays here? Maybe we'll talk about Brock Purdy.
I think San Francisco is the highest hyped playoff challenge team, which is kind of surprising. I mean, I know that the NFC isn't super strong, and I know that the 49ers are a very good team. They're loaded with talent. I get that. But, we talk about the champions most likely being a team like the Bills or the Chiefs. Even some people want to say the Eagles because they have that first round bye. But yet the 49ers are the ones getting all the love. So I think that kind of shows that whether you like it or not, I think the fan base is kind of leaning towards the 49ers being that team to make a long run. That's kind of what I hinted towards last week when we made our playoff predictions. But I think on the 49ers side of the ball, you can pretty much throw anybody in there. The beautiful thing about playoff challenge is, like, I'm going to throw out just somebody random. Let's say Christian McCaffrey. He's 80% owned in playoff challenge. Just get that out of the way. If he's 80% owned, that means if you pick Christian McCaffrey, you're not getting an edge on anybody because everybody has him. But if you pick against Christian McCaffrey and McCaffrey does go off, well, then everybody in the league has an edge on you. So it's kind of interesting in playoff challenge. You could be the one person to pick, Raheem Mostert, or you could be the one team to pick Jeff Wilson, and they actually go off in the playoffs, and suddenly you won the whole challenge because you picked the one random guy. So anybody on this team is playoff challenge worthy. Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo, even
Debo, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this might be one of the most lopsided games of the weekend too. I think there's a reason it's the first one on Saturday. No disrespect to the Seattle Seahawks, but they have definitely cooled off the last couple weeks. They have not been that same team. They've had a couple injuries. Geno hasn't been as good as he was for the beginning and middle stretch of the season. The last time Seattle went to San Fran, they lost by 20 points. Like, it doesn't look great for Seattle. If you're in the playoff challenge, I'd avoid all the Seahawks. I think the 49ers are a team. Maybe they might be overhyped because they are, coming off of a 9-game win streak. Maybe once they run in Philadelphia, people will be like, don't forget Philadelphia is a good team, or maybe even a Dallas or Tampa Bay coming up in the later weeks. But this looks almost to me as the clearest lock in Wildcard Weekend, which probably means they lose.
I don't know if they would lose, but I think it's going to be a closer game than you think, especially when you consider it's divisional. We always talk about how divisional games are totally topsy-turvy for no reason. But there's one thing I want to just throw out there and see what you guys think before we move on. So Jimmy Garoppolo is not on injured reserve. He's still on the active roster. He did not participate in practice all week. He's not playing in this game. But there was always those rumors once he originally got hurt that he was going to come back sometime in this playoff run and lead them on a charge. So now, with Brock Purdy playing the way he is if Garoppolo is active and comes back from his injury, does he start or is he number 2?
He probably starts.
Ooh.
He had better numbers than Brock Purdy. Like, he was 4-0, and Brock Purdy is now 5-0. Like, they're on a 9-game win streak. But his numbers are slightly better. Now, they're not going to rush him back. They're not going to play him at 90%. But if he's 100% cleared to go, I wouldn't be surprised if they made the switch. It wasn't like they were struggling with Jimmy G. Like, Jimmy G helped turn that around when he got back in the starting lineup.
Yeah, and good for Jimmy G, man. I really do hope that he does come back, and I really do hope that the 49ers make a run and even win the Super Bowl with Jimmy G at quarterback, because, like, the dude deserves it. He's had a tough road leading up to this point. And Christian McCaffrey, it'd be cool to see him win it after, the struggles of being on the Panthers for so long. This whole team, like I said before, like, this is just a fun team right now. George Kittle is another guy. I'd love to hear a speech from him. Just a fun team. I kind of hope that they do make a run. Seattle Seahawks side of the ball, since we just talked about 49ers like a lot. Is there, I don't know, Tyler Lockett might be a fun play if you don't mind having somebody eliminated off your team after week 1. Same with
DFS,
DK, I guess.
I would say, yeah, I'd like Tyler Lockett and me. I mean, Ken Walker's tough against this defense. I think both of them are tough against this defense, but like, I like him more in that than I do in a playoff challenge format.
I think if you're going to play a Seahawk, you play the kicker, or that's it. Like, because kickers are pointless. But otherwise,
he finally admitted it.
Yeah,
we're down to 1.
I voted against kickers in our league of record. So, fun fact, it did not pass, so it doesn't matter. But so I think that's enough for this matchup. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I know the guys just want to hear what's going on in the playoff challenge anyway, so we'll keep it moving. But the next game is Los Angeles Chargers versus Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, before we started recording, Cody, you said that this is the best game of the weekend, you think. Any insight to why? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think there's a couple reasons. One, I think they're probably the 2 closest teams. I know there's a lot of people saying the Chargers will be this year's Bengals. The Chargers can make a run. Chargers also played their starters when they didn't have to, and now Mike Williams is hurt. And that's a big blow to that offense. He was starting to come back on. They still have Keenan Allen. They still have Austin Eckler. Like, this is not going to be a, pushover game or anything like that. This, I think, is the game that could go down to the wire the most. Trevor Lawrence has played pretty well down the stretch, had a little bit of a, slow start in Tennessee, but that defense is better than we give it credit for. They have a rest advantage by playing they had a full week, where the Chargers, they only had 6 days. So just a lot of things going into this. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It also has stuff to do why I said that with like injuries to other teams that we'll talk about in a little bit. But this is probably my favorite matchup of the weekend.
Yeah, I said we would kind of like give our insights and pick games as we go. So I think we're all picking the 49ers. This is the toughest game to pick as well. I'm not super worried about the Mike Williams thing because I think there's a lot of other pass catchers that stepped up on the Chargers back when they were missing Williams and Allen, or one or the other, because their entire first half of the season, they were without both of them most of the year. So like Josh Palmer is going to step up and probably be fine. They're getting DeAndre Carter, who is like a career kick returner, to have a lot of productive weeks on offense. So I'm not super worried about the Mike Williams thing. He may play and be limited, but I did hear that the back injury is actually kind of a chronic thing that he deals with. So this is probably something he's used to playing with on a weekly basis. Gets a little bit of soreness. It just might have been aggravated.
That's probably what the team said because they realized how dumb they were for playing starters. But I don't want to criticize someone else's health issues.
Yeah. Jaguars injuries, they are pretty healthy, except Trevor Lawrence is listed as questionable. I wouldn't freak out about it because he's been listed as questionable for the last month. He's still just kind of in rep management for his various injuries throughout the year. I don't want to be the first one to have to pick this game, but Jaguars side of the ball, I guess, if you think that this game's going to be that close, you can pick Jaguars because you think they're going to move on just as quickly as you can pick Chargers. So ETN can be fine. Christian Kirk, Mr. Surprise of the year in fantasy, can get in your lineup if you are feeling good about a Jaguars run. Trevor Lawrence is a sleeper kind of quarterback. Anybody else from the I guess Evan Ingram. Anyone else?
Are we if we're talking playoff challenge? I'm not touching this matchup. I mean, I understand if you really trust the Chargers and you want to get Austin Eckler in there, okay. But I know I probably play playoff challenge different than you guys do, but I really try to pick the teams I think that are going to go far and really bank on those multiplier points, which is a lot of time. Like in my personal lineup, I have a lot of Chiefs. I'm not going to lie. Like I have a lot of Chiefs because they're already going to get +2. And I think that's the smarter strategy. You have to be right for it to pay off. And with this matchup being so close, I mean, the Chargers, they are 2.5-point favorites on the road. So that's a really close one. And I think the Chargers are going to win. If I had to pick them, I do think the Chargers will pull it out. But I would not be surprised Saturday night ends and the Jaguars are moving on.
Yeah, I guess you can see it going either way. But the Jaguars are booty, so I think Chargers are going to move on.
So even though we're saying it's a close game, we're all going to pick the Chargers. I'll agree with you guys.
I'll switch. And just be different. I'll pick the Jags.
Okay.
To be different.
All right. And we can move on to our Sunday window. So this is a normal triple header Sunday, like typical 1, 4:30, and 8:15 for the games. 1:00 game, Miami Dolphins traveling up north to the Buffalo Bills, another divisional matchup in Wildcard weekend. Miami's still without Tua. They're probably going to be without Raheem Mostert. Teddy Bridgewater was a limited participant. He would most likely be the starter for Miami if he does go. He's still dealing with a finger and his chronic knee issue. And Skylar Thompson was a full participant, so he is definitely good to go if Bridgewater cannot. Does it make a difference if it's Bridgewater or Thompson in this matchup?
Yes and no. The Bills are going to win no matter what. It'll be closer with Bridgewater. So if Bridgewater starts, you might want to take the Dolphins with the 13 points they're getting on the spread. But if it's Skylar Thompson, I'd probably still take Buffalo -13.
Dude, this sucks. I feel like even with Tua starting, the Bills would still win, but I think it'd be such a more exciting game. I mean, Tua with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, like that high-powered offense against the Bills' high-powered offense. Like, I feel like this would be such a cool game, but with Tua out, it kind of dampens it. Dolphins have been on a skid lately, and the Dolphins kind of have that tendency to start hot and skid near the end of the year. And it just sucks that it hit them like this. So I do think the Bills are going to win. But it's just a disappointing game.
It is
doesn't seem to. Sorry, go ahead, Cody.
I'll say it is worth noting. We're talking a lot about that, but the Bills lost to the Dolphins the first matchup this season, 19-21, and then the Bills only beat the Dolphins back in December 17th, 32-29. So all these games have been really close. So maybe the point spread is a little too much if you want to go based because it is divisional the third time they split, and I think Tua being out is a big reason of that. So, but at least these games have been more competitive than probably the average fan thinks.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to go back and see who the starting quarterback was for both. So it was Tua still in week 15, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tua.
So never mind. I was going to say, was that already before Tua was out and we're looking at is it because I think the Dolphins' record with and without Tua is completely different. I know they were skidding with Tua right near the end when he did then get hurt and was get another concussion out for the season, but his record was probably something like 8-3, 8-4, and I don't think they might have not have even won a game without him. So it was a big difference.
For sure. So I think I'm taking the Bills. I assume you guys are
Yep.
taking the Bills as well. Moving on to the 4:00 game, another rematch. Like George said, they're all rematches, but the closest rematch, the Giants and the Vikings game went right down to the wire. Their first time back in Minnesota, the Vikings won 24-21 the first time they played. And I feel like this is the upset that everybody's picking. Yep. Everyone's picking the Giants.
I mean, yeah. The Giants. Look, I feel like the Vikings have been just skidding so hard lately that everybody's picking against the Vikings. But you got to remember, like, the Vikings still are not a bad team. I know that their defense isn't great, but they still have that offense that's good enough to put up points when needed. They still have Juicy J. Like, they still have Dalvin Cook. I think people are sleeping on the Vikings a little too hard. With that being said, I could still see this weekend ending and the Giants move on.
My biggest reason why the Vikings are going to lose is I've been comparing them to the 2019 Steelers for a while because they're getting lucky and winning all of these one-score games, and then teams that they should be beating are just exposing them and blowing them out. They're a 13-4 team with -3 net points on the year. How do you have 9 more wins and scored 3 less points than your opponents? That's absolutely insane. And it just the reason that people are calling the Giants even a favorite in this is because the Vikings scream fraud.
Yeah, I lived the 2019 Packers. You said the Steelers. I'll say the Packers. That was called by PFF the most fraudulent 13-3 team because of very similar statistics. So yeah, don't get me wrong. Like Justin Jefferson is good enough to win the game. Like the Giants don't have a ton on offense. Like yes, Saquon Barkley's there. They rested Daniel Jones. Yes, Davis Webb took it to the Eagles in a game they had to win for the first round bye. So like that was a close game. So I get all of it. You know, it'll be a good game. It could go back and forth, but good and close games are where the Vikings thrive. So I don't think you can completely rule them out. But I just want to share one quick statistic. This is super deep analytics and stuff like that. But if you look at total rushing yards over what's expected for guys that had over 130 a season, dead last is Dalvin Cook. So and what that means is the amount of yards he rushed for versus what was expected on that play. So if there was a big hole and they fell down, essentially that would be a pretty negative play. They got hit in the backfield and then still for 10 yards. That'd be a positive play. So Dalvin Cook was dead last in the league. So maybe take that into consideration when you go, and I would probably not pick him in your playoff challenge. One, because this game that we're not even sure they're going to win, and two, the Giants defense are good, and he hasn't been that special running back that we once thought he was, at least this season.
Wouldn't it be fun to see if they try to move him this offseason and make Alexander Madison their starter?
I think Mattinson's a free agent, so they'd have to re-sign him first.
He was a free agent last year as well, and they still re-signed him. So I wouldn't be shocked, especially if they have intentions on making him a starter, but we'll see. That's kind of a talk for later and speculation that is totally unjust. Moving on to the night game on Sunday, it is the Baltimore Ravens traveling yet again to the Cincinnati Bengals. This literally just happened last week, but the Ravens did rest their starters, at least some of their starters. Lamar had said on Twitter that Lamar is out this week, and it does not sound like he's going to be back soon. So they were trying to downplay his PCL sprain. He now said today that Thursday. We're on Thursday. That it was a grade 2, borderline grade 3 PCL sprain. So that's why he still is out, still rehabbing, still has swelling in his knee. Not sounding good for him to even be back in the playoffs, even if the Ravens do somehow pull out and win this game. But it does look like it's going to be Tyler Huntley back. He was a limited participant in practice. And Gus Edwards is near the end of concussion protocol. He was limited as well. I don't think it makes a difference for the Ravens. I think the Bengals have this one. without Lamar. I think Lamar was the X factor they would have needed to pull off this upset.
Yeah, the Bengals are tied for the second highest point spread this week with they're 9.5 point favorites, which is tied with what the 49ers are projected over the Seahawks. So, and we talked like there's no chance that it's the most lopsided game in our opinion was 49ers Seahawks, and that's what it's tied with. So I like the Bengals here. I don't think there's any chance.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Bengals too. I did just want to go back to Alexander Mattinson quick. He was not a free agent last year. He was a draft pick in 2019. So this is first year testing.
My bad.
Free agency. So just want to clear that up. And speaking of contracts, I do want to give a shout out to Roquan Smith for cashing in big. Traded to the Ravens offseason. He signed a contract extension. And good for him because that's what the Ravens can hold their hat on for this year. They once again had brutal injury luck. They had a lot of games that they probably should have won earlier in the season, and they lost the last second. And say what you want, we always talk about players that have that it factor, and there's just something about Joe Burrow that in big games and big moments, he's going to show up, and for whatever that may be, like it's so hard to pick against the Bengals because of Joe Burrow. I know they have some question marks at offensive line, which we saw last year, but he got sacked 9 times and still won a game. So Bengals should win this one pretty easily.
Thanks for continuing to rub that one in. You're so nice.
Love you too.
Look, we're already out of the playoffs, man. You didn't have to rub it in, all right?
I'm sorry. I'm out too.
All right. Well, let me just say also, like, we were talking about trying to pick teams that we think are going to win, like, this week at least in playoff challenge. And if you look at it, like, you're trying to find power teams at least. There's 3 of them on the AFC side. It's Buffalo, Cincinnati, and then the Chiefs, obviously, who are on bye. So I think this is a great spot to take all your Bengals. If you have somebody you like, if you have somebody you think is going to be going off in the playoffs, that's a good spot to pick it. And then you just hope that they happen to get through the AFC gauntlet because the next 2 weeks for the Bengals most likely are going to be pretty tough with the Bills and the Chiefs in all likelihood. Anything to add, or should we move on to Monday night?
Monday night playoff football, first year of it.
This is the Media Bowl.
It is 100% the Media Bowl. Number one, because why are we playing Monday Night Football in the playoffs? It's just going to be a disadvantage for whoever moves on from this game on a short week into the second round. And number two, because it's the media's favorite team in the Dallas Cowboys and the media's favorite quarterback in Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just want to throw in before we start talking, Julio Jones was a full participant in practice. We've been limited for the last 7.5 years, so that's an improvement.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks this is the best game of the week except the media. I mean, it should be a decent game, I guess, but I think it's heavily favored towards the Cowboys, in my opinion. I'm not going to forget that the Bucs have been booty all year, and now they made the playoffs because their division is even more booty, and yet now we're going to pretend like this is some big, amazing game. Like, yeah, the Cowboys have struggled in some big games, don't get me wrong, but right now, the Cowboys are only 2.5 point favorites. That's it. Not even a field goal favorites. Like, I feel like it should be a lot more towards the Cowboys than that.
You see,
I
have this. You're probably going to say something similar to what I'm going to say. I have this pit feeling from watching how the end of the season worked out for the Buccaneers that like Tom Brady started to figure it out the last 3 games he played. The Buccaneers had these come from behind wins. The media starts hyping up Tom Brady again. Like, I want both these teams to lose. I don't really care which one moves on because I hope everyone moves on, loses in the second round. But I have this gut feeling that Tom Brady's going to have this comeback in the final drive, and it's going to be Brady's back. He's making a run. He's winning it this year, and that's going to be the whole storyline. And the Cowboys are just going to be left to the side again.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say the same thing you did. I get what you're saying. I think it's more just the Cowboys' defense has been struggling as of late, and Tom Brady can come alive in the playoffs, but I roasted Snyder for the 9 snacks thing, but let's talk about Tom Brady's performance the last time he was with the Patriots. Wasn't the best team, threw 2 picks, threw a pick to end the game. ended his career in New England against the Titans. So like we've seen him lose in the first round of playoffs. It's not unforeseen. But I think it was Jason Garrett put it out there on Sunday Night Football because they were talking about this matchup or sometime. And normally I don't really pay attention to it, but I thought he brought up a good point about the speed of the Cowboys defense and how they play fast, but they really play well on turf. And they haven't played well on grass all season. And we literally just saw that last week against the Commanders. The defense wasn't good. Their offense wasn't good. Like, this is a team built to play indoors, play in Jerry World, and they have to go to Tampa. They have to go on prime time. They have to go play on grass. So I think the spread is worth it. I'm not saying that that's going to be the reason they lose, but I do think I understand why it's a 2.5 point game. It should be close.
And I get the difference between outdoors and indoors, and they prefer playing indoors, and now it's going to be tougher. But like, yeah, they just struggled last week on grass. They also struggled in DC in January. There's a much bigger difference DC in January and Tampa Bay, Florida. It's the weather difference is just crazy. So I don't feel like it's going to be as, the elements are going to be as big of a factor. I think it's going to be good weather down there. I just think, I'm not afraid of Grandpa Brady throwing for his 6 touchdowns and beating. Like, I think his time is done. Yeah, he figured it out in a couple games, but I mean, Nathan Peterman's figured out a couple throws in his career, so anything's possible. No, in all seriousness, though, I think Cowboys are the favorite. I think they're going to move on. I don't think the Cowboys are actually going to make a run this year, but I do think they'll move past this round.
So really quick then, so there's only 2 cold weather outdoor teams left in the NFC. So by all of this logic, are you saying if they have to go to Philly or New York, that's going to be a problem?
I think playing on grass compared to turf has been a problem for their defense.
So playing in the cold on turf is going to be fine in New York? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I'm saying the cold is one thing. I'm not them going to New York. That's the NFC Championship matchup. So like, let's not pretend that's not realistically going to happen. I think it'll be a tough game, but that's divisional. Just like going to Philly is divisional, but I do think their defense will not be as good as they would be in Jerry World. I hope, I'll pick the Giants to win, but I hope I'm not going to say that on the mic. The Giants were to lose. I would enjoy a Cowboys and Philly second round. Like, I would enjoy that as a game. But if you ask me who I was going to pick, I'm picking the Buccaneers to win this game.
It totally would not be funny at all to see the Cowboys move on and beat the Eagles. Totally wouldn't be funny. I'm not going to be that
He's laughing
guy.
If you aren't watching us on YouTube, because that's how it is. I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game because I do think that they're the better football team, but I still have that gut feeling that Tom Brady's going to do something that's going to make us all angry.
There's also a part of me that kind of wants him to win the Super Bowl just so he retires.
The problem is, I don't know if he's going to retire if he does, so that's not a guarantee.
He's rejoining Josh McDaniels next year in Las Vegas, but that's speculation for later dates. That's the matchups. But before we get out of here, why don't we jump in to drafting the official Couch GMs playoff challenge team?
All right, boys. So we did this last year. I will give it a little rundown of how we are going to pick our team, and we already kind of did break down how playoff challenge works, but we're going to be making alternating picks here. So we did have the wheel of names reveal our order before the show. I will be the first Couch GM picking, then Tyler second, Cody third. There are 8 roster spots, so this is going to be like a rolling list. The first person that we have to replace that gets eliminated from the playoffs, Cody will pick at that point. So today, me and Tyler get 3 picks. Cody gets 2. Anything you want to add, or should I just start us off?
I'm just going to here real quick, just so if you're not familiar with playoff challenge, please join. But the roster is a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, a tight end, kicker, and a defensive and special teams.
All right, so I can go anywhere I would like here. Obviously trying to favor teams that have a good chance to make a deep run. I'm actually going to start with tight ends because I think that there's only 2 realistic choices, and it's either Kelsey or it's George Kittle. I think the AFC is a gauntlet. I think the Chiefs do have a good chance of going far, but I'm going to go ahead and pick George Kittle and number one, kind of block that 40, I think it's 49% of people that have him. But number two, bank on the 49ers being the team to get out of the NFC, because I think that they should be the favorite and there's less top end talent in the NFC than there is in the AFC.
Took one pick for me to get annoyed.
I was so ready to just bank on Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I was so ready. We literally talked about how he's 100
knew you guys were going to do it too.
100 points over wide receiver or tight end 2. And we talked about how he was the fantasy MVP. And we talked about how he was, the guy that we're debating how high are we going to draft him in the first round. And George is like, you know what? Give me a different tight end. Wow.
Yep, because, like if you remember though, George Kittle was on our nominees for fantasy playoff hero because he has gotten hot lately, and him with Brock Purdy, which we expect to happen not only this week, but probably a week or two even more in the future. He's been hot, so I think that's going to continue with that connection. Number two, like I said, I think the 49ers have a better chance of getting out of the NFC than the Chiefs do, just because they're going to have one or two really tough matchups. That's a gauntlet on that side of the bracket.
Tyler, it's your pick.
Bro, I was so banking on he wouldn't go tight end first so that I could just take Kelce second and just ride the waves from there. Yeah, so I'm throwing off. Half tempted to go kicker. All right, now I'll get the most important position out of the way. That's not kicker. I'll pick our quarterback. So for quarterback, I mean, I feel like there's obvious picks here. I feel like Josh Allen's an obvious pick. Brock Purdy is actually pretty decently owned. But I'm actually going to go with Jalen Hurts. He has the rushing ability. He has the legs. That adds some abilities to him, that adds some points. He does have the receiver, so you should be able to get points there. You will not get any points from him in week 1, which might feel like you're getting held back, but you are guaranteed double points in round 2. Round 2, I feel like he will play the Cowboys and he will win. So that's triple points in round 3. And that leaves one tough game to be able to make the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs, they all have all these tough teams to get through to get to the Super Bowl. I feel like it's harder to predict who's going to make it there. I do feel like the 49ers will make it on the NFC side. But I feel like the Eagles do have that shot. So I'm going with Jalen Hurts.
So you're not worried about that report that came out about Hurts' shoulder still not going to be 100% in round 2?
He didn't make it this far because of his shoulder.
Yeah, and I don't think Philly's going to limit his running game in the playoffs like they did in Week 18 because they don't want him to take hits. It's kind of an all or nothing once you're in the playoffs. So I'm with you. I just want to see what you'd say.
Wow. This is not how I anticipated this going at all.
Well, we kind of have our 2 NFC dart throws out here. If you want to pick another NFC team, you can, but that just means we're going to definitely have 2 guys that we're going to have to replace it by at least the Super Bowl. Where are you going to go?
Oh, man, probably I should just take a kicker because I'm going to get stuck with it anyways.
He already planned on Mahomes and Kelce, and now we threw him off.
Yeah, I did, because that makes the most sense. So before you all make any other weird moves, I'll take Christian McCaffrey. Yes, I know he's 80% owned. But if George is willing to take George Kittle over Travis Kelce, he thinks the 49ers are going to go somewhere, which they probably will. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they probably will. I'm going to not be the guy that's going to get too cute and take Christian McCaffrey. He's the best running back available in playoff challenge. They utilize him in numerous ways. Yes, I know Elijah Mitchell is back and he got a couple touches, and guess what? They still prioritize Christian McCaffrey. So Deebo Samuel was a playoff challenge like GOAT last year, and Christian McCaffrey can do the same thing this year.
This is still not going the way I expected either, but
how
I'm
could
gonna
it
take
when you blew the first pick?
Well, I was the person that was like, I got a play in here for George Kittle, but Tyler taking Jalen Hurts makes me want to go ahead and take my Hail Mary throw for this, and it shouldn't even be that much of a Hail Mary.
Did
but
with
you
George
go by
Kittle.
Not really. He's the most started player at the tight end position, and there's reasons for it, like I said. But I'm going to pair a receiver with Jalen Hurts, and it's not going to be A.J. Brown. It's going to be Devontae Smith. because
What
he
are we
has
doing?
been
Oh my God.
he has been
Are we
just as good
trying
or
to
better
lose?
than AJ Brown in the end of the season. And he was
Why
wide
do I
receiver
podcast
9.
with
He
you
is
guys?
2% owned in this challenge. And that
I
is
have
our
him
Hail
next.
Mary throw.
Oh my gosh. Congrats to whoever needs to come on the podcast. Make sure you roast the out of George. Wow. What is going on?
Yeah.
Snyder, it's your pick.
Do you want to take someone from the AFC?
No. Take Tyreek Hill. I dare you.
Dude, I had a Hail Mary player I was going to throw out, but I feel like at this point, Hail Marys are off the board. We've had enough. We gotta settle it down. All right. I'm going to... Wide receiver.
Do your Hail
Wide
Mary.
receiver.
Just do it.
No, I'm not doing my Hail Mary. Wide receiver, I'm taking Stephon Diggs. I feel like the Bills have a chance to make it all the way, win the Super Bowl. So take the best receiver on that team. Take one of the best receivers in the NFL, arguably. Stephon Diggs just makes too much sense.
I don't know. George probably would took Cole Beasley now that they signed him to the 53. So,
Jeez. I took wide receiver 9 and arguably if he played the whole year tight end 2, and you guys are like, oh my God, you've ruined the entire challenge.
yeah, when wide receiver 1 and tight end 1 were on the board. Just saying, if you're going to go based on fantasy rankings. Okay.
I am also saying George Kittle is the most owned person in playoff challenge, and there's reasons, and you guys just ignore it. No, but anyway, go ahead. Move on. No, move on.
No, you're talking about the start percentage, which I think you have to bring up and look at. But it's start percentage. It's not owned. It's start percentage. And that's because there's a lot of people that don't like to wait for bye players. All the bye players are lower. If everybody was playing this week, Travis Kelce would be the number 1 started player.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm taking Evan McPherson. I'm just going to be different. I'm taking my kicker. You all can have fun doing whatever else this thing is doing. I don't even know where he's at on this list, but that's what we're going with.
It's a kicker. That doesn't matter too much. I'm going to try to get in your guys' well wishes, and I'll take the Bills defense to pair with Diggs. So if the Bills come out into the Super Bowl, we have what is probably the best fantasy defense, and it pairs with our AFC contender.
Man, I was so hoping you would just pick the running backs.
The Bills
have
a gauntlet.
If I would have taken a running back there, it doesn't matter who I would have taken. You guys would just continue to say that I ruined the entire thing. So now I take the number 1 fantasy defense, and I hear Cody say, but they have a gauntlet.
The number 1
so
fantasy
whatever I
defense
do is you're not going to be happy with. So go ahead.
I think the 49ers were the number 1 fantasy defense. And the highest upside defense, I think, is the Eagles defense.
Just pick your running back.
George is so over this playoff challenge. Yeah, okay. Well, my Hail Mary throw was at running back, and I'm still not going to take it because, again, we are too Hail Married. I feel like you can make an argument for Austin Eckler here. I feel like you can make an argument for Bro Mixon. I think you can even make an argument for Devin Singletary just because I think they can go far, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to trust any of those Chiefs running backs. Again, you got to pick the team that you think can make it far. I just don't see any of the top running backs making it far. So I'm going to go with the running back I like the most out of all these guys, and it's going to be Bro Mixon. I don't think the Bengals will make the Super Bowl, but they have that chance. Cody just walked out.
He walked out before that pick too, so this is going well.
Okay, I'd love to hear who the running back is that we should have taken.
Yeah, me too, because there's not, like we said before we started recording here, there's not a lot of great options at running back. The good ones, he's just gone. The good ones are on bad teams, and then the good teams have the bad. So like Devin Singletary is a great example. Like the Bills could go really far, and then there's Devin Singletary and even James Cook. It's like, well, I don't really want them.
Cody, we really upset you with the Joe Mixon pick, apparently.
No, I'm having technical difficulties here because I was probably complaining too much.
Probably.
No, I was still
Do you
talking about
Do you like
Georgia's.
the pick of Joe Mixon?
I mean, sure. It's
Who
not the
would you have
worst
That's a
pick.
taken
no.
instead?
So I'm just looking at our roster right now, and mind blown. There's not a single Chief on there. Just because mind blown, there's not a single Chief on there.
Yeah, but you really want Jerick McKinnon on there?
I mean,
Hail Mary. Who was your Hail Mary running back?
Tony Pollard.
I like that one, actually. That's good.
Tony Pollard, they can beat the Bucks. I think they could beat the Eagles in the second round. Tony Pollard is one of the highest fantasy points getters in the second half of the season. And he's only like 3% owned or something like that, 3% started. So if you are right, if you guess right on the Tony Pollard pick, then you definitely are going to have a leg up on the rest of the league. Now, if the Cowboys do lose in week one because it is a closer game than we thought, then yeah, you lost a running back in round one, and that kind of sucks. But I feel like you can take the Hail Mary of Tony Pollard because of the fact that really I don't like the running backs. Like I said before, the good running backs in this list are the ones that are on teams that I don't really like. And the teams that I think can make it far, like the Bills, do I really trust Singletary? Probably not. The Chiefs, do I trust McKinnon? Do I trust Pacheco? Like, no. Like, I feel like the teams at the top don't have the running backs. And even the Eagles, like, I don't trust Miles Sanders. I don't trust them to use him correctly. So that's why I feel like you can take the Hail Mary on running back if you wanted to.
yeah, if I was going to take a Hail Mary on a running back, I would have taken Jerick McKinnon just because how well he finished scoring touchdowns. You're getting a automatic multiplier. But I don't hate the Joe Mixon pick at all. It is what it is. I don't know when I cut out, but I do want to go back to the Bills defense that you picked. And I just want to know why part of your reason was picking George Kittle was because of the gauntlet that the Chiefs, Bills, and the Bengals were going to go through, meaning that the Bills will have to most likely play two of those teams. That you went with them instead of a team, and this might just help other people, like, a team like the 49ers, they're getting the Seattle Seahawks this week. They're going to get, the Bucks or the Cowboys, maybe if the Giants win. Like, the 49ers have a good defense. Philadelphia is another one. They have a really good defense. Like, the Bills thing was almost as bad as the George Kittle pick. And George Kittle's a good player, but not taking Travis Kelce, I feel like we already lost.
Yeah, to clarify, we're not hating on Kittle because he's bad. We're hating on Kittle because he's not Travis Kelce. That's all.
You see, like, everyone that is smart is going to be taking Kelce. Like, that's why he's still 32% owned when he is on a bye. I get it how there's the whole point of, like, a lot of people don't take players on bye. Fine. But if Kittle gets to the Super Bowl and Kelce gets to the Super Bowl, Kittle's going to have an advantage because he played the extra week. He's going to have those points from week one. And if you put them up next to each other in a Super Bowl, I will say that they're at least going to be scoring similar. There's a chance that George Kittle can outscore Travis Kelce, both at ×4 in the Super Bowl, because of how hot he's been lately. So that's why I don't 100% understand why you're completely ripping it, because yes, he is not Travis Kelce, but he is the closest to Travis Kelce you're going to find, and you're going to still get an advantage over 50% of people, or the people that jump on the Kittle bandwagon if Kelce gets knocked out, or jump on the Kelce bandwagon late because they didn't take someone on bye and they add him in week 2, 3.
Okay.
All right. I feel like this is the most heated a disagreement has got on the podcast in a while. I feel like we need some kind of old-fashioned Couch GMs bet here between Kelce and Kittle, most fantasy playoff challenge points by the end of this playoff challenge. Are you guys in?
I'm in.
What's the bet?
I'm
not doing the Waffle House challenge.
You'd be the only one that fight me on this. I don't know what the bet is. Maybe we'll reach out to Fancy what they want the bet to be, or if you guys have an idea, I'm open. But
We got to go to some thrift shop and find like the most ugly wig we can find, and you got to wear it for like 2 weeks or something
2 weeks
on the podcast. 2 episodes.
So you have to wear a wig on the podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
Deal. Yeah. Travis Kelce, even if they both make the Super Bowl, we'll have more points.
Okay.
I like it.
Here we
Got
are.
ourselves a challenge.
Are you on my side, Snyder? Are you not
I
in
think
this?
I think it was just as crazy, but I didn't freak out as heavily as you did. Feel like I'm the moderator here.
I don't know. You seem to you put your hand on your face too. I feel like it's a 2v1. I feel
It's
like
because
both
you
of
wanted
would-
the easy pick of Kelsey. It wasn't as much like he does. I think he does definitely think
Yeah, I
Kelsey
wasn't
should have
as
picked over
mad
Kittle,
that
but
George
he was
picked
more.
Kittle.
Yeah.
I was more upset because I already had it locked in who I was going to pick. So then
Yeah.
George already picked tight end. And I was like, I didn't know after that, which is why I panicked and threw out Jalen Hurts, which
That's
was a
a great way
dark
to
throw
put it.
quarterback.
Great way to put it. Panicked and threw out Jalen Hurts.
And I will admit I panicked and put out the Bills defense to match up with Diggs. So we had 2 Bills. And you're right, that maybe was not the smartest pick. And maybe people will learn from this. But it could still work out too if they make the Super Bowl.
Couch
kinda wanna-
GMs team's going to suck.
Yeah. Watch the
Hey, but
Seahawks
we all-
win this week.
But we all have our own
That would ruin
individual teams
everybody.
too. So people are competing against us individually as well. And if you really want to prove that you know what you're talking about, and with all this freaking out, like you guys are going to put your money where your mouth is, and you're going to have these the competition. Cody's going to have his own team. George is going to have his own team. I'll have my own team. We'll see who does best out of the 3 of us, and we'll see if any fans out there can match or beat any of our teams.
All right. Let's see what happens. Playoff football's
right.
here. Super Wildcard Weekend.
Super Wildcard Weekend, including Monday Night Football for no good reason. But that'll wrap up the show here today. Like Tyler would always say, make sure you get involved. Join our playoff challenge. Talk about how I was dumb to pick George Kittle, Devontae Smith, and the Bills defense for the Couch GMs team. Maybe
Wait
I
a
was,
second.
maybe I wasn't.
I forgot about Devonta Smith. That is way worse than George Kittle. What was that?
He was worried about the Bills defense so
My
bad.
laptop almost died, and we lost the whole podcast right after that happened. So that's how bad that pick was.
Yeah, you not plugging in your laptop is Devontae Smith pick's fault. Yeah.
It was plugged in. I had to go get my second charger. So that's behind the scenes of the Couch GMs podcast right there. That's why I left.
This has been a roller coaster of an episode, and I hope you all enjoyed it. We will see how Playoff Challenge goes in week 1. Have fun watching your wild card weekend games. And we'll be back next week with 1 episode. We'll be back on Fridays. For Tyler Snyder and Cody Roadcap, I'm George Kerth, and we will see you all next week.
Boom.
Nice.
Choo-choo.